Hello, welcome to Monday Mindfulness. This is a place where we explore lots of aspects of mindfulness and look at what resonates with you and how would you apply that to your everyday life. And today we're going to do a very interesting one. I'm feeling great. My eye's feeling much better, by the way. And what we're going to do today is we're going to explore what happens when we struggle to meditate. What happens when we're distracted, or maybe something really important's going on, or we're just in a habit that pulls us away from meditation? Because often when we're on autopilot habits, meditation and mindfulness can be quite scary for the holder of that habit, which is a natural function of the body. And one of the key fundamentals of mindfulness, which is the acceptance and the understanding that these are all processes that are happening, and when we have a balance and everything's in harmony, it's all very healthy. It's just when we get too lost in autopilot and get focused in on imbalances and let them really become normal, that they become uncomfortable and those imbalances become costly. So mindfulness can help us to not only develop new habits, but also be aware if we are developing habits that are kind of out of whack for our general harmony. So if you're struggling to meditate, there's many ways that we can simplify things and make it easier to get started. And one of the things that we can do is using a very, very basic breathing technique. So we could just focus on the nostrils and just use that as our practice. And that could be a great way to get in, but also getting it moving and dynamic and letting our feet move faster than we can think is a great way to do it as well, and just making that practice dynamic and mobile. And another thing that we can do is make it super simple by just laying down and listening to some music. And that can be a great way to just kind of start to build some peace with stillness and start to be able to just have space for clarity. And saying that, what we're going to do today is we're going to let the distractions become our focus of meditation. So if something's coming up and it keeps distracting us, whether it's a sound, whether it's a thought pattern, whatever it is, if something comes up and disrupts our meditation, we're going to laser focus in and allow that to become the target of our practice. So we can throw away the breath or the music or whatever we were focusing on before and just focus on what's trying to pull me away from the meditation in an accepting and loving way. And that's a really important thing. It does get easier with practice, and it is a practice. It's something that we'll all slip up with and we'll all get distracted with, and it's a matter of just being able to lovingly and acceptingly come back to the practice. It's not a war. If it was a war, we'd be going to war with parts of ourselves, and those parts of ourselves can get very slippery and defensive. And when we're in that space, it makes it much more challenging. Sometimes we need an extra challenge, but it's much, much easier if we do it in an accepting, loving way. So we're basically acknowledging that these parts of ourselves that may be distracting us are actually valid parts of reality, and just allowing them to be what they are and to really just make peace with reality and be able to notice all of these different details. And I think of it like polishing a mirror. The mirror's really dirty in the beginning if we haven't practiced or if we're just in habits of not being present. And the more that we practice, the more that we become clear and the easier it is to be able to see ourselves in the mirror. And at the beginning, it takes some time and some practice to be able to get that mirror really shining and clear. And there may be things that get uncovered that you never even realized were there or never even fathomed were possible until we actually really start polishing and polishing and polishing. And it may be, the third or the fourth or the fifth or the 50th polish that we realize, oh wow, there's some real depth and richness here and some clarity that I didn't even know was possible. So it's really about being able to witness the mind's urge to make things right, to judge them, to categorize and label and add value on top of all of this reality that we're actually experiencing. And that's a really valuable function, as I was saying. of the mind to be able to add value to things, to be able to label and put perspective and join things together and come up with ideas. But if we're unconscious of it, it can become a bit of an addiction where the mind is just trying to get attention and trying to use energy in lots of different ways, and that can be really draining. And as I said, when we're out of balance, things get out of whack and we don't have time to be able to let things digest, to be able to really be present with things, or we don't have the practice to be able to be present with things if we're so used to not being present. So with this practice, we're simply building the ability to relax, to not need to judge or push or pull things or control them or add value to them, and just being able to continue to come back to simple witnessing, simply witnessing the moment. So we're really opening ourselves to the full cinema screen of the experience without needing to drill in perspective and try to add value to things and trying to change this moment or change this perspective and take control and build up this whirlpool of story and experience about something, and just being able to savor those little details and see if there's an urge to change something comes up, just to be able to witness that urge, or if there's a feeling of shrinking away from something, being able to witness that. And as we start to get more practice in this, we might notice a whole richness of detail in the subtleties of those urges, especially if we can see them ramp up and see the chain of processes that make up these changes in our experiences, our thought patterns, our emotions, and all of the way that these things interconnect. And the way that we're going to do that today is with a very, very simple practice, and that'll be thought watching. So we're going to witness the mind just for a few minutes, and we're going to just be aware of what's happening there with the mind, if there's any urges to change stuff, if there's any stories that are coming up. And the mind can get a little shy at first. When we first look at it, it can get kind of slippery and feel a bit unsafe. But then as we just open to awareness, and we might get lost in rabbit holes at times, and then keep coming back and opening to awareness and just noticing how the mind is whispering, how it's talking, how it's pulling on things, how it's wanting to change this dynamic. It's really amazing to be able to witness this and experience it. And right now I've just been sharing words, but the experience is something that's altogether undescribable. There's a lot of subtle details to the way that our mind responds to being watched, and our experience responds to being watched. And what we're doing today is really building comfort in that, opening a space where we can feel comfortable to be able to really savor the richness of our reality. So saying that, let's do 3 very simple minutes of just thought watching, and just notice what's going on there. And we can draw this to any other thing that might be distracting us. The mind might be distracting us in some case, so watch the mind. Some itchiness may want to distract us at some point. Watch the itchiness. If there's a sound that may be distracting us, just notice that and notice our responses in regard to that, and just witness those. And if we get into stories and if we get into abstraction and making importance and making fear or making judgment about it, just come back to witnessing the experience. And you might just, after practice, you might be able to get some presence with the reality of all of these knock-on reactions, and being able to just soak them in and witness in the body, in the experience, what's really happening there. And I find that time in the sense of being able to sit with these things slows down, and it becomes effortless and graceful and much more easy to take in all of the richness of this dynamic. At first, it's a lot to take in all at once. with practice it becomes much simpler, and that all becomes much simpler when we can gracefully just witness what's happening without needing to change it too much. And at first, if you're not used to it, it can be kind of a knee-jerk reaction to try to run and make something of this, or try to kind of pigeonhole it into something. We are just witnessing today, and it's perfect to run off into those rabbit holes. When we can, we're just going to come back. So I've talked a lot. I really want to share this experience with you of the thought watching. So let's do 3 minutes of just witnessing the mind. Getting ourselves nice and relaxed in a position where you can sit comfortably for 3 minutes. And if there's any safe discomfort around, just being able to take that in as well. If it's a distraction, all the better for working with. And now what we're going to do is just close our eyes down. Take a few long, deep breaths. And really just allow the mind to be witnessed. If it goes shy and quiet for a bit, that's perfect. Just noticing what's happening. Staying open. Staying aware, staying sensitive. Observing the movements of the mind. If you end up losing perspective, that's perfect. Zooming back out and just witnessing. Adding no fuel to the fire, as little fuel as possible. Just observing. Just taking a few long deep breaths, noticing what the state of the mind and the body is now. And just opening up the eyes slowly. Keeping that awareness that we've built. And once we've got some practice with this, it can also be useful to explore different aspects of what we're feeling. Like if we're having an urge to a particular change, or if something comes up that feels a bit urgent, we can look at, okay, what's behind this? Is there some history? Is there some learned beliefs there? Is there something that's genuinely urgent that needs addressing? Or is this something that is a habit that we've picked up? Or who is it that's actually doing this? Is this coming from the perspective of a scared child, or somebody who feels like they need to be separate and protect themselves, or what are all of these different dynamics that are going on there? It's very interesting to start building that piece with just witnessing, and then looking at from a wide out perspective on what are the actual details going on here, and exploring the richness of what we feel is so valuable and such an art form, and it does take practice. Another thing that can help is journaling. Same with anything else, we can get out of balance with journaling. If we're kind of journaling and analysing everything, it can kind of become a bit heady and intellectual, but it can also help us to identify patterns, and it can also help us to kind of get some clarity in the meditation after the meditation. So I'd journal some of these as you're starting to get practice with it. Not all of them. I think there's a lot of value in having some free form practice as well, where you just explore and allow it to be what it is, and allow it to come and go, letting go of that needing to hold on to the practice or make it anything in particular. Just allowing it to flow and allowing it to be perfect however it comes out is really valuable. So yeah, all of this in balance. I find this as a fundamental technique for not only mindfulness but also personal development, and it can also help us to just get that general perspective on who we are, realizing that we're not actually our thoughts. These habits and these bodily functions that we're witnessing aren't actually our identity. They're just things that are going on within us, and we're conscious of them, and we can consciously dance this dance when we have that awareness. So thank you so much for joining us on this adventure. Please share your insights into thought watching if you'd like in the comments. And thank you so much for your time, and I really do love you guys. Hope you have a wonderful week. See ya.